What's going on? We back again, another session in this Power BI series. This time we jumping into data modeling. That's the big run. This is the most important part. After making sure your data is clean, it's establishing these relationships. And the way that this works is, think of your database or your data tables as a hoop team, right? People got to play their position. There's different roles, right? So you might have some people who handle the offense. That's like your sales table, right? You might have people on defense. That might be your returns. And then you've got people who are part of the strategy. That might be the categories and the customers, okay? Communication between the team is key to set up for success. If you want to get buckets, get them wins, communication has to be on point. And that's what establishing these relationships, which is linking the tables together, is going to provide. It's going to provide you with the means to win. Now, in this lesson today, what we're going to do is cover setting up fact and dimension tables. We're going to go over defining data model relationships, and then star schemas versus snowflake schemas. Hint, we're going to be using a star schema, but I'm going to give a tangent at some point about that snowflake. Then we're going into adding columns to the date table. So we're going to take that date table. If you remember, it just has that single column, which are the full dates. We're going to take that and add a column for a year, month, and day. And that way we got a little bit more to work with when we're looking to display certain data. And then we're going to close it out by creating a date table and making sure that our data model is working how it's supposed to. So we're going to add a few fields to it, use a filter, and make sure things are filtering the way that they should be. And if we set things up correctly, then everything will be good. So let's go ahead and get into it. Right, so here on the Power BI front end, I'm on the model view right now. And in this model view, you see all these tables that we've got. I'm going to use this slider bar, slide over. We've got all of our tables here. Remember, we combined our sales data. So what we're going to do now, head back into Power Query. So what we want to understand here is fact tables versus dimension tables. So your fact tables, that's going to hold your transactional data like numbers, sales, returns. So our sales data combined table, that's going to end up being our fact table. That's going to be our central point of truth, as they say. And outside of that, the rest of these tables would be considered dimension tables. So you think of it as the who, what, where, and when. That's what the dimension tables are. So looking at our tables here, we've got our customer lookup tables. That's who made the purchase. The product lookup, that's what was purchased. We've got the calendar lookup, that's when the purchase happened, and then the territory lookup, which is where the purchase happened, right? So that is the general of how the fact table versus the dimension table works. Also, in theory, this returns table also would be kind of considered a fact table, but in this instance, excuse me, we're going to have a single fact table, which is going to be our sales data combined. Although the returns data is giving the truth of when those sales that went out, when those got returned. So it's going to be similar in a couple of ways, and you'll see what that looks like when we actually paint this out here shortly. So one of the things that you want to make sure when you are defining your fact tables and your dimension tables is that your dimension tables have to have in their primary key field. So I'm going to jump down here to the customer lookup. So our customer lookup table right here, this first column, which is the customer key, this has to have unique values. And what I mean by that is there should only be one instance of each number in this column. That's how you're able to connect to your fact table. This is a dimension table. This customer key will be a customer dimension table. That's going to connect, and it only works if there's one instance The fact table can have multiple instances of that, right? Multiple sales could have happened with an individual customer, but you can't have multiple of the same customer in this customer table. There should only be one instance of this customer. John Yang should not be in here twice, right? Even if he bought multiple things, which his customer number may pop up multiple times in that fact table, but in this dimension table, one instance, right? Before we actually start manipulating this, in this model view, what's happening is if we were, let me see, our sales data combined. So this is our fact table. I'm going to place this here. And then I was just looking at that customer lookup. When you're making these relationships, defining these relationships, your fact side is the many side. Your dimension side is the one side. So the relationship should be a one to many. I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, in this sales data combined, there is a customer key. All right, so I'm going to find that customer key, which is this first one. Inside of this customer lookup, there's also the customer key. So that is the common field. So that's what we've got to join on. But if I grab this and connect it, we get this pop-up here, which is what we want is this pop-up, but what we don't want is this pop-up right here. This cardinality, many to many, we don't want that. We want this to be one to many, one to many, one to many. I'm saying that multiple times because that's important. Looking here, it says that this relationship has cardinality many to many. This should only be used if it's expected that neither column, customer key and customer key, between those two tables contains unique values. This is not something you really ever want to happen, is to have a many to many. There are instances, of course, where they can be used, but that's a high level of working within Power BI. Most of what we're doing here as beginners, not going to be dealing with that. So this can't be hooked in this way. So I'm canceling out of that screen. And what I'm going to do is go back into Power Query because something is wrong. That's essentially what that is telling me, is something is wrong inside of my dimension table that I'm looking to connect with the fact table. So I'm coming to this customer lookup table. Now there's a couple of tools that's going to help us survey and analyze this table. At the bottom, you got this column. I don't know why what I was about to say. Co-filing. This is column profiling based on the top 1,000 rows. If I click that, I'm going to change this to based on the entire data set. Okay. Not a lot has changed here, but then I'm going to come up to the menu options and I'm going to go to view and I'm going to turn on column distribution and column profile. There we go. Now with these opened up, I can see right here already with this column statistics, there's 5 errors going on here. And if I also look here, which is that data profile, it is letting me know there's an error. See these slashes here with that little piece of red. Now, in order to narrow this list down, because as it stands with this count, there's 18,000 rows. Trying to scroll through and find out where that's at, why? We don't want to do that. So there's a quick and easy way to filter this down to just show us where those errors are at. So I'm going to go ahead and right click right in this little gray area. And I'm going to go with keep errors. All right. Now it's just showing me the errors. Remember it said it was 5 errors. Here's 5 rows. And if I look here, I can kind of assess that, yeah, something went on with the data input. All these are null, meaning nothing was placed in those fields. There's no data there. There's a couple of birth dates, but those seem random. January 1st, 1900. Not saying people ain't living long. We in 2025 now. I mean, 125, shout out to you if you made it. But I'm going to say that those people ain't on this list. So what we can do here, now that we see this is an error and it looks like this is a data input error, what we're going to do, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to actually come over to the applied steps, X out of that kept error. So now I'm back to being able to see all the data here. And I'm going to do a couple of things. All right. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go with remove errors. Now there's a couple of ways to do this. Actually, let me pop back over, come to the home tab, and there just so you can see things. I can also click here up on the header of customer key. If I click on that header, get my drop downs that come here. There's a bunch of different options here. There's also remove errors in this. So I do want to I'm showing you this to show you that most cases within Power BI, it's multiple ways to get to the same tool. I'm going to go ahead, remove errors. So this is very important right here. When you are working on your dimension tables, getting everything set up, you want to make sure that your distinct and unique values match up. They do in this case. But I'm going to show you one other thing. Now, this is the reason that you use the column profile. If I look here, right, there's 18,149 rows. No errors now, but we have an empty row. If I wouldn't have caught that, right? So we just removed all the errors. If I went back out right now and tried to connect it, I'd get that same pop-up that there was an issue with the many-to-many, because even though this is showing that there are 18,149 distinct and then unique values, there is a blank row in there. So, easy fix. Right-click, remove empty. This is going real slow. I feel like customer service, and they're like, systems are slow today. And now if I give the look back at that column profile, no errors, nothing is empty. Now, if I go ahead and come to my home, close and apply, I'm back in the Power BI front end, should be updating here in just a second. All right, now if I grab that customer key to that customer key, notice now we don't get that little pop-up warning us. Now, while this is up, I do want to let you know what's happening. We basically connected this. This is showing us that this customer key column in the sales data combined is connected to the customer key in the customer lookup table. And the cardinality is many to one. That's just what we wanted. I will go into a dive on the different types of cardinalities and what they mean when I get into creating those smaller, shorter, a little deep dive joints. But again, just in general, rule of thumb, as they say, many to one is, or one to many. That's what you want. I'm going to click save here. And when I say one to many, many to one, what that means is your dimensions table, we have one customer with that customer ID. That one customer in the customer lookup could have bought many things. So they're going to show up many times in that sales data table, which is our fact table. All right. So now what I'm going to do from here is go into setting up a star schema. So your schema is kind of the flow of your data and how it relates to each other. And why they call it the star schema is because you kind of set it up shaped like a star, meaning you've got your central fact table, and then there's those lines. These join lines are going to be going all around. That's a star schema. Now, you get into Snowflake schema when you have multiple dimensions. And I'm going to actually show here because we've got a product and then a product subcategory. We've got our product lookup, which then goes into product subcategory, which then goes into product category. And that is a branch off, and they call it Snowflake because it does like that star. And then there's another branch off of that star. So yeah, it's a visual thing. That's the only reason that they call it that. It's not an acronym or nothing like that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start setting this up. I'm going to move this around a little bit. Okay, so now what basically I'm going to do is just go ahead and start linking these key fields. So the way this is set up, this is going to actually start our sales data is going to connect to the customer lookup, the calendar lookup, territory lookup, and product lookup. That's where we're going to be starting at. All right. So we can see here, we've got a customer key. That customer key is what went over to the customer lookup. product key is what's going to go over to the product lookup. So I'm looking for the product key. There we go. Drop that. That new relationship window is going to pop up. Many to one. Everything is good. And then from there, we got territory key. So I'm going to grab that, bring that to territory. Many to one. Good stuff. All right. And then we're going to go grab this order date and drag this up to the date calendar. Many to one. Perfect. All right. Now the way that this is going to work, we're going from this product lookup. This is going to go here. Let me find. There we go. Product subcategory key. So I'm going to grab that, bring that to the product subcategory key. Many to one. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab this product category, bring that to product category. And I'm going to click save there. Now I do want to mention what's happening right here, right? So we've got the product lookup, then there's a product subcategory. So the subcategory is there's bikes, but there's multiple types of bikes, and all of those are listed here in this product subcategory. Then a level down from that is the product category. And actually I'm going to jump into table view really quick. I'm going to show you the product subcategory. All right, so now you can see here. So our subcategory name, we got mountain bikes, road bikes, turn bikes. So with that, we then look at the product categories and we see there's only 4. So it's bikes, components, clothing, and accessories. So it's just each of those subcategory and product category, both of those are taking what's in the original product table, the lookup table, and then breaking it down into its most basic format, which is bikes, components, clothing, accessories. All right. So I just wanted to show that. And now we've got our returns data. So now here on our returns data, let me actually make sure and look at my notes, make sure I didn't skip over a part of this. All right, so our returns data, we're actually going to take the product key in there and we're going to connect that to the product table, and then our territory key, we're going to connect that to territory. All right, so here's our product key in the returns data. I'm going to drag that up to product key in the product lookup. That's a many to one. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab that territory key, bring that over to that sales territory key, and click save. And now what we've got going on here is our data model. This is our a star schema, but because we've got this little extra break off here, it's like starting to turn into a snowflake schema. But in general, a snowflake schema is just a star schema expanded, and that can get tricky. You can have each of these different tables could have branch offs to make it more and more and more specific with each of them. But again, what we're doing here, basic run through. All right, so once this is saved, make sure to hit that save button and just click that in the upper left corner. So now we've got our general setup here. Now I'm going to show you something. I'm going to jump into, or actually I'm going to come over to our data pane here. And if I expand, let me see, customer lookup, you see we've got the customer key showing up here. And then if I want to come to where it's going to make the most sense, our sales data combined. There we go. So it's customer key, we've got product key, territory key. We don't need all of those showing up in our data, right? So when we're actually on the front end building out our visualizations, we don't need those popping up and just taking up space essentially, because we're not using those in any of our visualizations. There's no point to see that on the front end. I mean, I guess we're in the front end, but on the canvas. So there's an easy way to go ahead and make sure that those are not showing up. And that's just coming here. I'm starting the sales data combined. If you come here, let's see. So right next to this customer key, if I hover here, I see that little eyeball. I'm going to poke it. Boop. And I'm going to do that for all of the key fields in all of the tables. So again, making sure, let me give a quick zoom through, make sure I'm seeing bam, 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 bam. All right, so now those are cut off, and in a moment we won't see them in our front end. Now, before we go and create our table, one of the things that we want to do here in our calendar lookup, if I look at our calendar table, so if I go get the calendar lookup, we're just seeing one instance of dates here, right? And this is going to be going from this January 1st through that last date that's in the data model. What we want to do is break this down so that we've got a year column, we've got a month column, a month name column, and a day column. And that's another easy peasy. So I'm going to jump back into the home tab, and I'm going up to the transform data. So we're going to get back into Power Query, and this is where we're going to make this happen at. So once inside of Power Query, I'm going to go ahead and click on calendar lookup. I'm going to click that refresh. All right. So now what we want to do, add that year, month name, and day. Easy. Make sure you've got this date selected. Then on this these tabs, you're going to click on the Add Columns tab. And I'm actually going to turn off this column distribution. There we go. So I'm coming back to the Add Column. With the date column selected, there's an area here, this little section from date time. If you click the drop down on date, that calendar is going to drop down. And there's quite a few options. We're going to start here on year. And all we do is come and click on year. Bam. Now it's been added. That year has been added. I'm going to click back on date. So that's something important. Make sure that you're back on the date field because it's extracting that information from that column. So select date again, back to date. This time I'm coming to month. All right. Now I've got my month showing here. But again, that's the numeric. Typically when we see a month, we might want to see the actual name of the month. Easy. Select date, back up to date, month, and there is name of month. Select that. And then lastly, but not leastly, we're going to come to day. All right. So now we've got this broken out just as we needed, and we want to make sure that this is added to our data model. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to home, close and apply. Now is that good old moment of truth, which means we're going to see if this actually works in the way that we want it to. So I'm going to head over to this build pane, and if you don't have the build pane showing up on yours, right over here to this left-hand side, this is how you reveal. Like, we're going to need that format, so I click that to bring that out. There's also the bookmarks. We'll get into that in a later one on how to create bookmarks within your visuals. Now this build pane right here, there's a ton of options for what you can use to visualize your data, and you're not limited to just these. These are the stock standard ones, but you can also get more visuals, go online, and some are paid, some are free, and you can pull those and add those to your toolkit. But for now, we're going to kiss it, keep it simple. All right, so I'm clicked on that, brought this in, resize it just a little bit. And we're going to bring in a couple of fields here. All right. So we're going to start. Let me see what we're going to start with. Product lookup. We're going to go with product name. All right. And then we're going to go to sales data combined, order quantity. All right. And then I'll go territory lookup, and we'll go ahead and put in region. All right. So now, and let's put in some sales information. So I'm going to come here to that product lookup, and I'll go product price too. All right. Now, we want to be able to filter this, and that's going to really let us know if our relationships have been defined correctly. All right. So now what we're seeing here, we've got our products. We've got the quantity of products that have been sold, the regions they were sold in, and then the cost, the price, right? And then at the bottom, we're able to see the total. We're able to see the total of those prices. So now what's going to let us know if the relationships were defined correctly and things are working as they should be, we're going to bring in a slicer. So in the build pane, there's this little icon with a little filter on it. I'm going to give that a click. And one of the things to keep in mind, make sure of when you're bringing in a different visual, you want to make sure that your current visual isn't selected. So like if I had my table here selected and then I came over and clicked the slicer, it would be trying to change this to a slicer, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that, and then make sure that I click on just a blank area here, and then I would go add just like I just did. But anyways, I'm going to select my slicer, and I'm going to do region and year. So I'm going to click on the region field, all right, and that's going to show me the different regions here. And then I'm going to bring in another slicer, resize that. And you're going to learn as you get to working in Power BI, there's some greatness, a lot of greatness, but they can really work on the user experience when it comes to formatting things and sizes. Let me see. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and what I'm adding here, I'm going to add... in the calendar lookup, I'm going to go ahead and add the year. Now, when I first set this is set up as a range. They actually just updated this in a more recent update to Power BI where this used to come in automatically as a list, but for whatever reason, now this year starts as a range where you can move these, and I'm not a fan of that. So what I'm going to do is with this selected, come over to the format pane, and there are some slicer settings. I'm going to drop that down, and there's some options. The style currently set to between. I'm going to go ahead, click that, and let's see, I'll go with a vertical list for now. Just got those couple of years. So now, moment of truth, right? Let's say we only want to see stuff that is products sold in Australia. If I click that Australia, now in this region column, I'm only seeing Australia. So it is filtering just as intended. And I might want to see Australia sales just in 2022. So selected that, and this is what I've got. Let me see if I click to 2021. Notice that these numbers are changing. And of course, here, this is the overall sales, which is why the product price didn't change. Sorry, not the product price. Why I did say that correctly. The product price did not change because that is the price, is the price, is the price. What I just checked on was what was the order quantities between these different years. The pricing is still the same. If we wanted to check this for the prices that were different, we'd have to do something different. But as it stands, we have came and created our data model. We set up these relationships, and once those are hooked in together, it's magic. The whole team is communicating. And then we jumped in there, added those extra columns to our calendar. We tested it out with a simple table here. Threw a couple of these slicers to be able to check this by the different regions. So yeah, with that, thank you all for rocking with me. Stay tuned. These are going to keep coming. We got a few more to get you all the way through the basics of this Power BI. Appreciate y'all rocking, and we're going to do it again shortly. All right, y'all. Ken Jones, I'm out.